Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Contributor Technical Discussions. We have a special demo to kick us off today. It's the boards realm demo by the DevX team. And I'll be handing over the presentation over to Danny. Hit it.
Well, thanks. Yeah, hey everyone. I can start us off by providing an overview, and then we'll hand it off to Geronimo to give us a quick walkthrough. So I think a good portion of us on the call are familiar with boards, or just the general idea of like the boards implementation. Essentially, over the last several weeks, the DevX team has been working on a boards 2, as we've kind of internally dubbed it, implementation of boards functionality for Gnoland. And this builds on some of the earlier work that Jay had started for a boards offering for Gnoland. And the objective was to essentially see this vision through, but also use it as an opportunity to build out some of the core functionality and features, and kind of indirectly also a way to challenge the chain and see the capabilities of Gnoland put to the test. And we also viewed it as one of the core offerings at beta launch, as sort of like a flagship app for Gnoland. And right now it captures kind of all the base functionality that you'd expect, posting, being able to create a board, and threads, replying to different threads, and just participating in kind of these like forum like discussions, and the capabilities revolve around this permission implementation and like administrative capabilities. And in the beginning, we had a concept to facilitate like the administration and governance under like a DAO known as admin DAO. And then through further discussion, we essentially evolved this model into a more generalized DAO framework that we currently dubbed as Common DAO. And the idea is that not only boards, but other, dApps can use Common DAO for different administration and governance needs. And longer term vision of Common DAO is that it could likely just be a collection of like reusable libraries within Gno that other dApps and implementations can leverage for governance needs. And yeah, with that, can probably hand it to Geronimo, who can give us like a walkthrough. Oh, and I would also say the focus recently has been to kind of refine like the UI UX with the working group. And we had originally deployed different release candidates on like an internal DevX network, but recently we deployed a release candidate to Portaloop, so you can actually try boards out yourselves after. If you wanted to pass like your address on to Geronimo, who can invite you, or one of the current admins. And with that, can pass it on to Geronimo. Thanks.
Thanks, Danny. Am I able? Yeah, I can share. I will share the the whole window. Okay. Hi everyone. As mentioned by Danny, this implementation of boards relies by underlying DAOs for the functionality. It's worth mentioning before starting that DAOs, you can think about DAOs being used in two different places. One is within the boards realm itself to manage admin users and a set of minimal functionalities required for the realm, like being able to optionally making it read-only, for example, during a realm version update, or to flag inappropriate content, for example. But the other place where DAOs are used are within each created board, where a new DAO is created when a new board is created. They go hand in hand with the idea to allow each board to be an independent community. Okay, yeah, that's kind of a good introduction. So also have in mind, as I mentioned, that the UI has to still be refined and reviewed. The whole implementation has to. So some things can potentially change. I will share, just in case you're interested, the link to the PR, if you want to check it at some point. And also the URL that I'm using right now for the code. You can see.
And if you're watching this as a recording, the links will be in the description of the video.
So, okay, so from the UI, so what do we have here in the main realm view? As soon as you open boards, you will see, let's say, a menu for the boards. In this case, sorting support, and then you will see the list of boards that you have. In this case, you have 6, I believe. So the next board that is created is going to trigger pagination. So there is support for pagination in this case. So if we check the menu, we have a couple of options or actions that you can perform, which is, for example, creating a board that will trigger the transaction for that. We have a help support. Maybe this idea could be used in general, where the idea is that we have a section here that allows you to, or the admin users to upload help for the realm, in this case, for boards, explaining how they work. In this case, we didn't write it, but once it's done, it will be available. And we have a list of admin users, which are, as mentioned before, we have these underlying DAO for the realm, and then we have a DAO for each one of the boards. So in this case, the admin users are the users that belong to the DAO of the realm. And what you get is the member, the role, and a couple of actions that you can perform on each one of the members. In this case, all of the members have registered a username in the user's realm, but if you don't, you will see an address here. Also, each time you have a user, you can link directly to the user realm. Right now, we only implemented basic sorting by date. So each realm that is displayed here, there are a couple of examples. I will go through them. The first one is an empty board. The idea of having many members actually was to display this, but we already have it here. We have minimal information like the number of threads created within the board, who created it, when, and the ID of the board. In this case, this board is empty, so what we get is just a placeholder with a link, which is basically a link for creating a new thread. As now we are inside the board, so the same as when we are in the realm view, in the board's realm view, we have a menu. In this case, the menu is a little bit more, it has a little bit, couple of options. So you have the possibility to invite a member, to list the members, in this case, of the board, or to freeze a board, which means you set the board as read-only. Yeah, my friend?
Hey, do you have the latest version of Adina installed?
Actually, I removed it because when I was trying, it pops up constantly, and I don't get for example, support for inputs when I was trying it. Maybe I didn't have the right one, so I disabled it, but I do have it here.
Because yeah, we made several feedback, so that actually I think what you are demonstrating right now is just the perfect example of the new Adina features, because you can really navigate, make your board journey. And when there is a link, it just opens the Adina and you can fill the missing fields eventually. So no problem, but please give a new try after this meeting. I think it will be the best companion for boards.
Yeah, the thing I found out when I had it enabled is that, for example, if I click create board, actually I have a parameter, in this case name, and the version.
Now it's supported.
Okay. Good to know then. Okay, resuming here, so you can invite a member and change the board to read only, and of course list the members. In this case, there are a couple that didn't register, so they have the address here. I will skip for now this one. And this other board contains a couple of threads in this case. So it's an example to see a way to see threads. Same thing, you can sort them, newest, older. You get some information about the number of replies, reposts. If somebody reposted a thread. So in this case, for example, we have 12 replies. So if I go in, you can see the title of the thread, the body, some information regarding who created and when, a couple of actions that you can actually perform. Some of them are dependent on the permissions. So if you remember, we have a couple of roles I didn't mention, but roles are, for example, owner role, that's a higher level role, but then you have admin and moderator. So depending on that, certain actions might not be allowed if you don't have the privileges for the role. But yeah, you can flag a thread, you can repost it, you can create a reply to it, you can edit, delete, and the replies are actually displayed like this. So these are separate replies, and you can nest also. So you can reply a reply if you want, and you will see it nested this way. And there is another functionality. Imagine that you want maybe to share a link to the thread, and you don't want to see the other reply, so you could limit the context. So the threads, then as mentioned before, you can, within the options, you can set a board to read only. So in this case, this one is read only already, and it contains one thread. When you get into the board, you will see a message that says that you cannot create new threads or comment, and the options you have are limited. So you can list the members. Of course, you can manage members. You can unfreeze the board. And in case of the thread, also you cannot do much. You can just repost or you can flag it. And finally, the repost example. So this, if I go to the board, I have this thread. This thread is actually a repost that I created. And opening it will show, again, the title of the thread. And then this is the title that you assign to the repost thread. And then you see the content of the original thread. And you also have an optional body. This is here, like as an example. Then you have a couple of options, same as before. If you would have replies, you will see them here. And you can go back to the original thread. This is the number 42. So you can see here, for example, it has one repost. And if I go, let me see. Here you also get some information about the repost. So yeah, that's kind of an overview. There are other actions that are not shown here because to keep the UI focused and minimal, and if they are not shown here, it's because those actions you need a specific role to actually call them. So overall, the way it works with users and members of a board is that, for example, when you create a board, that means you are creating under the hood, let's say a DAO. And when you do that, the person who's creating the board, it's automatically an owner within that DAO. It's the only member of the DAO. From then on, the owner can choose to invite other members with different roles, like admin, moderators, for example. And the fact that it's a DAO is an assumption. It probably, for most of the cases, there will be a DAO here. But that might not be the case. And I can show what I mean by that. So we have to check the code. Unless you want to ask something regarding the UI, but otherwise I will switch to show the code or the relevant part. So the way it works is that boards define an interface which is the permissions interface. And the idea of this is that to allow boards to deal with users, roles, and permissions. By default, we have a default implementation that is using Common DAO, but technically, users could implement this interface, and under the hood, they could use a DAO or not. It's up to the way it's implemented. But overall, you have role, permission, and user functions, user-related functions. But the main one here is the with permission one. So the idea of this specific function, so what you get here is a different set of arguments. The first one is the user making the call, a specific permission, depending on the action that you want to perform, a set of arguments that you want to send, and then a callback. The idea is that this callback should be called depending on the user and depending on the permission. So it depends on the implementation in this case. And the good thing about the with permission function is that you can think that you might have some cases where I will show now an example, but where you might go through a proposal to perform certain actions. For example, this is one of the cases. This is a public realm function to invite a member. So what you can give here is board ID or 0 if you refer to the realm. So you can invite members to the realm DAO or to an individual board DAO, the user you want to invite, and the role that you might give to the user. An empty role means it's a guest. Well, there is an assert here. Then we get the permissions implementation, depending on the ID that we're giving here. We get the caller. We initialize a couple of arguments. In this case, it's the user and the role. And then we execute this, we call it with permissions with the caller. In this case, the permission is to invite a member. And the callback, it's the one that actually adds the user and well, triggers an event in this case. But the point here is that if you think about maybe different DAOs, maybe different boards, I mean, technically you could maybe have an implementation that uses a DAO and goes through a proposal before actually adding the user, or maybe not. It depends on the implementation. It's technically possible. Right now, we are using a DAO under the hood for every case, which is the default case. I think that's it. Yeah.
So if people wanted to get access to boards and try it out, how can they reach you?
How can they reach me? Outside of the company, I guess by email, but the point is that we do have, like, right now it's invite only. Boards overall, like there are a couple of features that still need discussion and definition, like as an example, forking, a more advanced way of moderating threads and comments, because right now we have flagging only, and different sorting, for example, by ranking, I don't know, up votes, down votes. There are a lot of features that have to be thought out. But yeah, right now we do have a set of users. So technically, all of the users that are listed here are owners. That means that Danny, you can also invite Michelle and also Manfred. And we can use different strategies for this. So we can invite users to the boards or DAO, or we can create a specific board, and then we assign, we invite users to that specific board. And yeah, again, your question was how to reach me. Well, I guess right now I can think only by email.
Okay, I guess the best answer is reach out to your contacts within our team or our company. So Michelle, yourself, myself, depending on who you know, and we'll grant you access. Thank you, Geronimo, for the demo.
I don't know. I could also go through the common DAO. There is, if that's also something that you want to see, but that will be focused on code specifically.
Leon also had a question that could potentially solve this. Can we set up a board that's completely open to anyone, so permissionless?
Okay, there is a PR. Let me quickly check. Right now we cannot. I'm sending a link through the chat. There. So the idea here is, yeah, to enable public threads. It has to be discussed, and then we can implement it. But at the moment, it's only invite only.
All right, thank you, Geronimo, for the demo. Looking forward to testing boards some more. The next demo is coming from Berty. They want to demo the session key UX for Gnokey mobile. So guys, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nemanja. Maybe before we start, before Jeff and Jerry start, guys, so any feedback on account session UX would be super helpful. So any of you working or thinking about this, kindly pay attention. We're really looking for feedback.
Yeah, so as Yuri will show, we have our usual Gnokey mobile and an example DApp which uses it, which is dsocial, and they communicate with each other on the phone. We know that session keys are coming, and we did not attempt, of course, to implement any of the cryptography underneath. We just sort of emulate it just enough to get the user interface happening so that we can experiment with that. which part of the creation of session keys belong to the DApp and the Gnokey mobile, how to show it, and to start a conversation about, session keys are complicated, and to start a conversation about how to present it to the user in a way that is easy to use. So we did not push this up on the test flight because we didn't want to have to explain to people that it's not really implemented in a secure fashion. It's only UX. So, but this is just the start of the conversation. I'll take it away, Yuri.
Exactly. So you were seeing this social with as a React Native app, and also this social is trying to log in using Gnokey. That's also a React Native app. Gnokey have a master key to unlock, and now I can check which key I want to use to sign in on the social. The Gnokey mobile, I already checked the chains, look at on some list of chains, and already detect that those two keys was registered on their chain. So that's why you see Berty dev, that's the name of our chain. So it means for me that this chain was registered there on users realm. So I will pick test about 1, 2, 3. There is this loop bug that we love to see things spinning. And now the social is searching on the DevX indexer for the latest posts that this key posts on the board's realm. And okay, so you can scroll, you can refresh, and also you can post. So to post, you don't have credentials. Okay, you just use the Gnokey to sign in the social, and for post or to interact with the chain is the same. You don't have session, you don't have keys, don't have anything. So for posting now, I will communicate with Gnokey again to ask Gnokey for permission to do this operation, to sign the transaction for me. That the social will create the transaction, the text, okay, send the text to Gnokey with a bunch of more information that we'll see. And Gnokey, you need to decide if you want to approve or not. So what's saying to me here is the social. Gnokey already know the social is calling because this information came to the social through deep links, which is a mobile mechanism to send message to an app to another. And let's see more information here. So we received the client name, which is the app key, let's say, the app name. The reason that why this operation was requested, a callback, that is another deep link address. Okay, if we call this, we'll wake up the social. The address that the social wants to use to sign the message, this address was used to search for the key on Gnokey local stored database. Remote is the remote that was associated with this key previously. The same for the chain ID. And now we see that the app, which is the social, wants to create a session. Okay, and the session is now undefined. We don't have session yet. Those are the realms that the social will use to integrate with the chain. And this is the raw message, the DevX message, transaction message. So, okay, we need to decide, that's the max amount that you want to spend on this operation. And we can create a session. Okay, let's say that I want to remember this operation for the next 10 minutes, which is too much for our demo. Let's increase to 1 minute. And now I'm saying that I will approve for 1 minute, and the max amount that I want to spend on this operation and the session key is this amount of micro Gnokey. So let's approve. It'll take a time to sign, and it will call back the social. So the social, okay, now I can, oops, sorry. Cancel. Now I can display the post. Let's take a time to refresh, update indexers. Come on. Okay, posting now. Now I can use the same session if I, oh, sorry, I have something on my mouse. Posting now until expired. Let's see, 10, 9. Okay, I didn't have time. Okay, as the session became too close to be expired, the social already requested a new session. What I want to demonstrate is, if you want, give me maybe 2 minutes. Use for 2 minutes, approve. If I post again. It will not require a session again. It will not. I don't have this option to create a new session because Gnokey will use the same session. So we are emulating session on Gnokey. Also, the point that we are right now is, if I have a session here, I shouldn't need to be again talk with Gnokey. The session already exists, is already inside the social. So that's the point that we are bringing it to raise the discussion of session key, how we will implement it on the apps and interact communication. And I think that's it. Do you remember any point? Yeah, sorry, Nemanja.
So does the session approve all calls or just the post ones?
I think the intention is that it would approve all calls from that DApp for the realm that the session is authorized for. So that, because you want to be able to hop around, right? You want to be able to click a like, you want to make a reply, you want to kind of do your thing in the app until your time is up, and then you have to create another session. But this is why we're doing this. We're not giving the answers. This is the the test balloon to get people to think about it. Jay.
One thing that came to mind is, I guess the first thing is, there's a few things. One, the transaction details should always be shown, and the raw transaction here, like in the bottom, transaction input, I guess it should just say raw transaction. It should always be shown and not escaped like this, but indented, so anyone can still read it if they wanted to pretty easily. And something should always be shown like chain ID, because it's not just the coins, GNOT, that are moving, and it really matters what is being signed. The other thing is, the user should always approve of a transaction, even if it's a session account, because well, the user should. It should. Everything should be voluntary. But it means that they don't have to attach. They don't have to use like a hardware ledger every time, right? So that would be annoying. But at least this makes it easier. But I don't think it'll be good for transactions to be signed automatically. Maybe in the future we can allow something like that, but at first let's just make everything explicit. And the user would have to like opt into something maybe to make it automatic, like don't, I don't know, don't ask, for a particular type of
Well,
transaction.
Yuri, if you scroll to the top here, this was our idea of this screen is if they click the checkbox that says remember this permission, that's the thing which initiates a session, which is, right? And so if they don't check that, then absolutely they have to sign every transaction. That's the way it works right now, right? But if they do click it, it's like, when you log into your bank, remember me on this computer for 10 minutes or something. But this is our attempt to reflect back mainly to you and Manfred what our understanding of how you are describing.
When I sign into a bank, I still have to approve and manually do every transaction. I just don't have to enter my password again.
Yeah, well, and right. Here we have the idea of you're using the app, and like even if you just want to click the like button on a post, right? That's going to be a transaction. The idea would be that for 10 minutes you can kind of like go through using your app without getting this screen popping up every time asking you to approve. That's our understanding of the whole purpose of a session key.
It's to log in. Right. So imagine when you had to log into a bank, you had to use a hardware ledger,
right?
Hardware wallet, right? So now, and imagine if by default, in order to do any transaction with the bank, every time you have to use your hardware wallet. That would be annoying. So it would be better if you can log in once, and that specifically is a login. It's not. It's not something that comes automatically when you're trying to do a transaction. You should go through a specific step of logging in. That's when a session account is created. And once you're logged in, you don't need to use your ledger anymore. That's all that means. All it means is you don't have to use your hardware device separately. But
like when I'm logged in and I'm like, I look, for example, there's messages from the bank, and I mark, I click the button that says mark messages read. That's a typical thing. Are you saying you should still get a pop-up at that point that says, are you sure you want to use this key to mark this message as read for every little thing you do?
What do you mean? Well, I mean, everything you do that requires signing is an action that you should explicitly accept. And I don't think anything, I don't think anything should be signed automatically. For example, when you post a new comment, the website can, let's say Gno.land, the Gno.web can talk to the extension, the wallet, which has a session account, right? Because you logged in, so to speak, and created a session account, and that's a specific action that you take. Logging in is a specific action. Once you're logged in, if you want to post a message, the extension should still pop something up and say, "Hey, do you accept or deny?" And you should hit accept. So
okay.
Yeah, it's explicit action. All signing should still require, and I would say for the initial versions of this stuff, for the time being, anyways, always take manual action to accept the transaction after reviewing it.
Okay, so
yeah, just otherwise, for example, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you could imagine problems arising from it, like maybe it starts spamming. Maybe the application is buggy, and it starts signing messages that you never wanted to sign all over the board, all over the realm somewhere you're not even looking at. And by the time you realize what's happening, it might have been, far too late.
Well, I thought that was the purpose of restricting the session key to just a few coins or just a few. Maybe I misunderstood.
I don't know. I'm not sure what previous conversations there were, but I think we should consider automatic citing to be a future feature and talk about it at a later time. It probably requires a bit of understanding of how the ecosystem is evolving, and I just think it's safest for now to say everything requires an explicit interaction. I mean, what do you mean marking as red? Like, what is that?
I'm just thinking of a typical thing that's like in dsocial, you see where it says 0 gnods. And you know, that's like that's our joke. That's like the thumbs up or a like, right? So you just want to be able to use your app and click and interact with stuff for a while without having pop-ups in your face every 3 seconds like this. I thought that was one of the applications of a session key, is to a limited key that could only possibly do limited damage if the app was malicious, and just let you kind of use the app like you use any other app without getting force confirmation screens every time you kind of do something. But that, you know, in a way we've succeeded. We've generated this conversation. To answer Christoph, you do see screens popping back and forth between the various, you know, app-specific dsocial, but the idea is that the Gnokey mobile is generic, like you're saying. They should have. Well, okay. The other thing that we did not show here is the idea that dsocial, once it gets its session key, that it can sign without talking to Gnokey mobile. That's the thing we were not able to emulate, because then we'd have to move a private key around or something like that. And so, yeah, absolutely, where we can get to the point where there's more app-specific interaction and information about signing things. So do we have a session going here, Yuri?
We can move forward. I think for the demo, it's okay. We have topics to talk about.
Did you give it 10 minutes, or is there an active session right now?
Oh, sorry.
Well, I thought you were still in there, so we don't have to. Yeah, it's still 8 minutes.
Yeah,
so do what you were just doing. Go into the other guy's post. So do a search, and the idea is you're just poking around, and somebody else's posts, and it should work.
It's slow today.
Yeah. Well, this is not very good. So, well, it really is slow. So just click Gnods there, right? So the idea is, hey, that's funny. And then you wouldn't really see this necessarily screen because there's nothing to click. And so it just does it. That's what our understanding was for the session key, is so you can just kind of use the app kind of more like a traditional app, where you can do fairly trivial things like give a thumbs up to a post without it being something so profound that you have to read the details of the transaction and the key name again. Because also it's a UI UX question. If people are getting that in their face every 5 seconds, they're just going to learn to ignore it. What if it says something else, right? They're not going to read it. So,
well, yeah, at least they're reading something, as opposed to, I don't know, just things just happening. I guess if that little screen is popping up at least briefly every single time, then I guess it's not going to sign 100 transactions without you knowing it, because it's going to do 100 flips.
That's true. We could rate limit. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and not saying it needs to be rate limited per se. I'm just saying at least the user knows.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So, I think there needs to be a bit of discussion on this. You know,
Absolutely.
maybe if it's coming from another app, right, and the app is requesting that the message type be automatically signed, and if what that automatic category, you know, it's being restricted to a specific realm and a specific message type, and it's not blacklisted, maybe, right, by us. And if the list of things that are automatically signed can also be disabled by going to Gno Mobile and looking at a list of all the things that you previously wanted automatically signed, then maybe, sure.
Yeah.
All right. But
Yeah, I basically restrict to a realm and a function. Like, don't ask me again for gnotting, or don't ask me again for reposting or something.
yeah, right.
Possible.
But yeah, you know, I guess we might want to consider other restrictions too, but sure, I can see the benefit of it.
This is also, you know, fodder for Manfred, who's writing the interface to the session accounts, and maybe, you know, right now they have restrictions on time and coins and realms, and maybe there will be you know, you could imagine an endless list of specific conditions that you could place on a session that are enforced by the chain itself.
Yeah, the UX is the limit.
Yeah. Right. We don't want to make it too confusing for the user. Yeah.
The UX is the limit, and we have several places for UX problems. One of them is the configuration, the initial one. Another one is how to update the permission. So maybe progressively whitelisting new stuff, blacklisting new stuff. So we have UX problem at initialization, UX problem at usage, and this is where we will have problems. Under the hood, the system is pretty simple and extendable, but we have limitations for sure.
Okay, thanks. That's all we wanted to do was start the conversation. Yeah.
But to be honest, yeah, even if I see mistakes here, it's useful for me to see this mistake because it just shows how much people will want something similar and what to prevent, what to encourage, incentivize, etc.
Maybe I have a question, Manfred and Jay and everybody. So thanks for the feedback. Clearly super useful. So we go into more like security first, even if it's a bit cumbersome, but trying to simplify it how it makes sense, maybe incrementally. What do you think we should focus on next? So what do you think naturally should be? Maybe iterate and experiment with further with the UX in this direction, like with just maybe having a pop-up or maybe gradually whitelisting things. How do you feel it? Or
right now, focus on sessionless UX. So everything about having the deep link and signing everything. So remove the notion of approve for 10 minutes, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, keep the notion of approve, remove the notion of for 10 minutes. Okay. I think you should read, maybe we should stop. For instance, even yesterday, I gave UX feedback to Adina, and I think basically what Jay told you at the beginning of his feedback is exactly the same about making transaction verification easier and complete with a raw message, indented, etc. We discussed about this with Adina yesterday. I think you should just focus on making direct signature from an app to another very efficient, and later we will add the session system. Okay. Anyway, it will be ready soon. It's a new thing that will probably require some internal testing, maybe a dedicated audit because it's very central. So yeah, consider a concession does not exist. Stay ready. I love your current application. Maybe you can just make a snapshot of this app so we can remember later in terms of UX discussion. But just focus on sessionless inter-app communication.
Sessionless. Okay, great. We'll make a post.
Finish this. So finish the UX, the UI, so that you become an official wallet. Right now, it cannot be a wallet yet. It's not ready enough. just go to the point where you are officially a usable wallet. And then we'll iterate with you and Adina and Gnokey CLI, etc.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, but I would look. I think the approve for 10 minutes maybe doesn't make as much sense as just saying don't ask me again or something like that. So not 10 minutes but the duration of the session. Right. So I mean, like, what's the point of waiting? I don't know, just approving it for 10 minutes. You probably want the same behavior like tomorrow and the day after, until the session is over, which might be, I guess, maybe indefinite. Yeah, Manfred?
On the way I see session workflows in the future, I think we will want session expiration, but mostly as a general rule for this session. I trust this device for just 1 week, just for 1 hour, just for 5 minutes, or maybe ask me again every day for 5 minutes. So I decide for this usage session the time, and then yes, my preference in this session about this specific call is always approved or blacklisted or whatever. Is something that can stick with a session. So there are 2 dimensions: one which is more the time one, which is session level, and then we have maybe the preferences per call that definitely makes more sense to be reminded over time. The preferences over time, the time could make sense to be something that we ask you every day if that's your workflow actually. So I think we will have notion of time, we'll have notion of call whitelisting.
Yeah, I mean,
we won't have notion of call whitelisting for a certain time.
I don't know. I really don't see the use of, maybe, but seems like it's kind of overcomplicating it. Like, look, I think I should be able to log in, right, create a session, and that should be like an explicit step. I don't know if that was in this demo, but there should be like a window for, create session. Basically, it's like logging in, right? And when you create a session, you should maybe have the option of saying like whether it's indefinite or, how long the session will last, and put any limits on it if you want. But it's definitely useful to have your phone log in to a session and you never have to worry about it again, right? So it doesn't expire. And also that's nice just in case you lose your master key. We talked about like, if you want to destroy your session, the primary way to destroy it should be through your master key, right? So your hardware ledger. Well, if you lose your hardware, it would be nice if at least your phone stayed logged in, right? So so you can still use your account, for example. Anyways, I just think it's really useful to keep an infinite session if you want. And then if you're going to have a session like that lasts forever, and then you're like, you don't want to approve of likes, and you just want that to be automated and to keep that indefinite too. Why not just make that automatically sign for the duration of the whole session? I want to be able to see a list of all the things that are automatically being signed. So all the things I clicked, don't ask me again, so that I can go through that list and remove them from the interface. Yeah.
Yeah, this is more an advice for the Berty team. We will have session preferences with some whitelisting, etc. But this thing about I don't want to be asked anymore for like, for instance, or a repost is something we won't see on chain. So anyway, you will need to keep your own level of preferences. You have the usage preferences, and on chain we have the lower level preferences. If there is a time expiration, if there is something about chain level whitelisting, blacklisting, it will be on-chain, and you should be able to display it because you have access to the information, but you will probably have another layer of references. And automatic approval does not make sense on-chain. We just don't need this, so please build your system thinking like this.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, everyone.
I think that's clear. The master that is a thing, but we don't need it yet. We can survive with single signing transactions. Okay.
All right, so we're moving on to. Oh, go on, man.
I have an open question since we have some people here, including Jay and Berty and maybe on block, regarding deep links. Here we saw non-working deep links, non-working in the browser. In practice, deep link can be compatible with browser links. So, what do you think, guys? Is because I'm proposing in my account session PR an initial protocol for inter-wallet communication or inter-client. I don't know how we name it. The thing about having deep links like yours is that they only work on mobile, but we will have inter-wallet communication between, for instance, I don't know, a browser and a mobile, potentially with a QR code. A QR code can have a non-working URL. It can use the exact same URL with no problem. But do we want to consider having a deep link that works? So, for instance, I don't know, Gno.land / something. We can even make something to prevent logging. For instance, if we just use a sharp in the URL, Gno.land / deep link sharp something, the sharp part won't be logged on the server side from a validator, from a GNO web instance or whatever. So in one way, we make deep links that just works for machine. In another way, we make deep links that also work through, I don't know, WhatsApp, Signal, etc. A link that works, a link with a preview, a link with potentially some instructions. So if you don't have the app installed, it open your browser and, I don't know, invite you to download the application, etc. So do we want to go in the direction where when there is a problem, it's definitely harder to identify the problem, there is no way to have a suggestion, etc. Or do we want to take the opposite direction, which is more about, okay, we embrace having a UI, but with all the risk in terms of security, UX, etc.
Sure what you mean by deep link. Sorry, I missed that.
Deep links is when an application register on your device, could be on mobile. It's very common on mobile. It also works on computers, and the device says open this app when there is a link like this. So here they add links like land.gno/. This is a deep link because it's intercepted by the OS. The application registers this domain, this pattern. So they intercept the URL. This is how mobile application works, and this is how app-to-app works. Basically, they click on land.gno.gnokey from dsocial, and it opens the other application. This is the inter-application mechanism. But a deep link can be a working link, a working URL, something with a real domain, something that if you don't have the application registered, it will open your browser and display HTML. So we have two opposite directions. One of them is to have a nice fallback experience, potentially with documentation, etc. The other one is to be more obscure, but without the risk of basically having to trust a website. It's definitely a choice to make.
Right. So this is wait. Why is it land.gno.gnokey? Is it backwards? I don't get it.
Oh, I think it's just a Java style, or it's just a style. It's not enforced.
Right. Okay. So this is an opaque deep link. Is that right? It doesn't go to a website, but you're saying it could go to a website. It could be like something.gno.land, whatever.
Exactly. It could be a real URL.
This is how dsocial wakes up Gnokey mobile on the same phone.
If Gnokey is installed, so the operation system check, oh, I have an app installed associated with this URL. Yes, so open it. If not, open the web.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And there's the detail that on mobile phones, apps go to sleep. So the reason we're using deep links is it will wake up the app and then let the app process it. You can't just talk to an app because it might not be there. You have to use a mechanism like this.
Just wanted to remind something is this protocol right now is just for Gnokey Mobile, but at some point we want sessions to be something you can, for instance, create from your air-gap computer, scanning a QR code or something from the mobile or the opposite, I don't know. So at some point we will want an inter-wallet protocol to create a session from a device to another. So you validate on the master device a request from another device. So at some point we will need similar URLs, and it works with non-working deep links or working deep links. When I say working, I mean with real domain, real real web page.
Right. Well, I think a real domain would be nice. That way we can customize the site that says, get this app, right?
Yeah, it's usually better. We can have documentation, and we can even use some HTML headers to suggest to Android and iPhone, etc., the applications they should install if they want. This is what people usually do.
All right. Yeah, that seems fine. We just need to make sure it's secure. If we mess that up, then they could download, I suppose, something bad from the app, not the Apple Store, but on the Google Play Store, right? Yeah. But I mean, what's the downside to having a real link? Is there a downside to it?
Downside is no, we should care about the security of making this domain name always up and running. So we need to trust name registrars. We need to it's about trust.
Okay.
We need to trust the internet, basically.
How does it? I mean, I imagine with an Apple device, it's less of a problem because they presumably they would keep a registry. So if it if it was land.gno.gnokey, right, it would only work for that app. So the security maybe doesn't matter as much, right, on the Apple side.
Yeah, but maybe we can also imagine. So we have two levels. We can have Gnokey specific links with working and non-working URLs, and we can also have maybe inter-wallet, Gno.land, Gno.client, generic things so that you can just use any registered wallet at some point. So today it's just Gnokey mobile, the thing we have in mind. But tomorrow, if we embrace having multiple wallets, Adina mobile, Gnokey mobile, etc.
How does that work with a redirect?
No, it just they just register the Gno wallet generic URL.
Hmm.
That's what people are doing mostly on Ethereum, for instance. They don't have MetaMask URLs. They have wallet connect URLs, and MetaMask is intercepting it, and other wallets will do the same. So basically, the wallet you install will intercept. And when you have two, I don't know what happens. Maybe there is a prompt, or maybe the most recent one.
I guess.
But basically, they intercept an official pattern more than themselves.
Can they intercept? Can they intercept a real link?
Yeah.
That's weird. Wait, are you saying that? Wouldn't that also mean that if you click on a real link from like a forum post in a comment, any app can
it can be intercepted as soon as an application registers a name. It also works on computers. On computers, you can register this is opened by this application. Usually, it's used by applications using a OAuth mechanism. So, for instance, when you want to connect desktop applications with Google, you will have a prompt: do you want to open this link in? So from your browser, it will ask, do you want to open in this application? And the concept of deep link is to register a pattern forever. You can have a ask once if you can open this in an external application from the browser, or you can register forever that any link from iMessage, WhatsApp, Signal, or Firefox will open directly here in your application.
I feel like we need a separate meeting and get all the facts before making a decision here. But it's kind of hard to think about all the implications.
I will organize an inter-wallet meeting soon with a concession presentation and question from Adina, Gnokey Mobile, Alex, etc.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Let's start those meetings. Sounds good.
All right, we're over time anyway, so we'll stop here. Berty, you had some questions. We can cover them asynchronously, so we don't get hanging.
We actually just talked about one of them, so that's great.
I know, but it's not the only one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
All right. Thank you all for coming, and have a great week. We'll see you on the next call.
Hey, wait, before you all leave, just one thing. There is an inter-realm spec update coming. It'll definitely be ready by the next week, but it may require some changes to your GNO code. More details are coming. For now, if you want a preview of a poorly documented PR, you can take a look at PR number 4028. But there are some changes to the how cross-realm communication works. But I'm sure we'll have a lot more to say next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, guys.